Hi, I'm Eric Goldschmidt. As a glass artist and demonstration supervisor for the Corning Museum of Glass, it's important I continue to stay informed about the history, craft, art, and science of glass. This thirst for information has transformed me into a bit of a glass pilgrim. There's just no better way to learn than going directly to the source. In the spring of 2014, this quest brought me to the celebrated glass center of Murano, Italy, a small island just off the coast of Venice with a history of glassmaking that dates all the way back to the 13th century. I'd like to share some of this experience with you.
In 1854, several brothers of the Toso family decided to rehabilitate Murano's fledgling glass industry. Their family had been deeply involved in glassmaking prior to the occupation of Venice and Murano by Napoleon Bonaparte. Slowly, they developed the old techniques, formulas, and designs that had made Murano famous previously. Fratelli Toso is now the oldest family-run business on Murano, and I was fortunate enough to get a tour of their showroom with Arnoldo Toso and his daughter Caterina. Arnoldo has been involved with the business since the 1950s, and he has been running it since 1981. Arnoldo and Caterina gave us a wonderful tour, pointing out the many amazing pieces in their collection and relating them to the time periods, designs, and techniques involved. They are in the midst of a very large archival project, gathering and cataloging all of the old design catalogs, recipe books, and glass pieces they can find in the hopes of not only preserving the artifacts, but also preserving the most accurate stories of Murano's great history.
I feel that we are lucky just because they didn't throw everything away.
Right.
That was the risk. A lot of people did it in Murano. I mean, they just took everything and they put everything in the...
They didn't see the importance.
No, it was just like paper and old things, dusty things.
Yeah.
And I started because I've always been fascinated by glass. And I remember that I was so fascinated by this room when I was a child, because I could see these things. I could say that it was so valuable, but at the same time I was so confident in touching things. I grew up here, and then I thought I was so fascinated by all this paper, and at the beginning I have to admit that I was so fascinated by the fact that they were signed by people with my surname. So I could think, maybe it was my grandfather, my best grandfather, and I was thinking that's so nice to have this connection with the family. So I started in this way, and then day after day, week after week, I just really got into the project. So it became really something important. And I started working in a serious way. So what I am doing now is put in order in the archive, giving importance to this factory, to this collection. And I think that it's so important to do it right now before that all of this just go away. So I'm taking pictures, I'm putting order, I'm talking with people, and I think that it's so important to save the history of Murano, to give credit to Murano. Yeah, what I think that is amazing of this piece
the particularity
colors,
is the casualty is that you make the Murino decoration. So it's put the casualty.
And the colors are amazing.
Very intense.
Yeah.
E questo è Licio Zuffi, because he used the big Murino.
Here, of course, the designer is good, but the glass master was
Good
amazing.
Oh yeah.
Licio Zuffi. Zuffi was another family, but actually a
He was
grandfather.
associated from longer time in the factory.
Yeah,
Because the big father was in the factory associated.
yeah. Actually, the story is that at the end of the 1800, Zuffi married a Toso, a woman, a Toso woman. So they entered in the family. So since 150 years, Zuffi was in the factory.
But he arrived to be associated in the year 22, from longer time than he was working for
In the factory.
Here.
And this is one old, very old catalog by Fratelli Toso. So this is the number 4. We have 8 of them, and it belongs to the period more or less 1910. And you have all the drawings that were reproduced by glassmasters. So you have all these small objects reproduced and numbered. So they cataloged all the pieces. And it's, in my opinion, it's amazing to see how they were skilled also in drawing. If you think that they were glass masters, I mean, people working in the furnace, doing these amazing things. And sometimes the kind of designer was doing the design and then bringing the design to the glassmaster. But sometimes it was also the way opposite around. The glassmaster was creating something, and then the designer was saying, "Oh, that's great! So I'm putting it in the catalog."
So
it was
designed
both
together
ways,
almost.
yeah. It was really working together. There was not this big distinction between designer and glassmaster. Often they were the same person. Yeah, can you see, for example, this page is very important for us because we know that these pieces were made for Esposizione Italo-Britannica 1919, Rome. So we can say, okay, we know that more or less 3,600, this number are more or less belongs to the 20s, beginning. So it's very important for us to date the pieces in the catalog.
After you have to think then from the 19 we start a new work because before it was the first work. From 15 we are no more in Murano but in Livorno working.
Why is that?
Why? Because the Austrian people was invading Italy and for defend the work of glass, they displaced the factory in Livorno, near Genoa.
To protect it, to
Yeah,
save it.
many factories actually moved there.
And we have
It's a group of factories.
we
moved
have
there.
documentation, then 3 factories, Baroviere Toso, Artisti Baroviere, not Baroviere Toso, Fratelli Toso e Rioda was making just one associate. But after the war is finished and we start a new in Murano, we
Yeah.
come back.
So these are pictures, for example, because all the pieces that were realized were pictured and with the number. So you could also have not only the drawing but also the picture. This is 1000, so we are talking about the beginning of the 19th century, of the 1900s. And these are old drawings brought to the glassmaster for their production. Very typical from that period. So can you see the monsters, dragons, snakes? So it was about the imitation of what they did in the 1800s. So before the big crisis of Murano of the 1900s. So what they did between the end of the 1800s and the beginning of the 1900s was imitating the old style. So dragons, snakes, dolphins. So all these things that were made in Venice, in Murano, before the big crisis. So glaciers, this is very, very typical from
So
this time.
these are actual size, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like
Yeah, the proportions are correct with this,
So
in this
that's why
drawings.
you said the maestro used those for their
Yeah, and can you see again
the notes.
the notes in red? So they were writing not 4 but 6 strawberries because in the drawing there are only 4. So here it's written 6. And can you see here there is also the date? So it's 1916. And can you see the number? It's not anymore 1,000 but 3,000. So it fit with the 1916. Can you see correction? So they did the drawing and then they gave the drawing to the glassmaster. And after that, the glassmaster was saying, yeah, but maybe we can put something more here, something like here, too big, too small. So they were writing down corrections, and they were creating another drawing, and the piece was realized with the correction suggested by the glass master. This is mixed, actually. This album is still mixed. So, for example, this one belongs to the 40s. This design, I can recognize it from the paper, because you can also the texture of the paper helps us to understand of which period we're talking about. For example, this brown raw paper belongs to that period.
Okay.
So it helps me to recognize also drawing which have not the number. Why they don't have the number? Very probably because this piece was realized for an exhibition. So it was not put in the catalog with the normal numbers.
Production,
So without numbers. So first of all, very probably was for an exhibition. And this paper tells me that it belongs to the end of the 30s, beginning of 40s. So that's the way that we are working to trace.
That one, it had notes on it. It said Fiume Oro Argento. So that's like the...
Fume oro, cristallo argento, gambo cristallo, foglie fume oro.
And from that, I buy some pieces of the 42, other I forget. And that is a Polegoso of 42.
This is a kind of modern. This is a figurine by Polio Perelda. And from this drawing, you can see that he studied at Accademia delle Belle Arti. I mean, his way of almost sculpture.
Yeah.
You see them, it's blowing in the mold, horizontal mold, and that is the quality. The pieces are from the 42. Look at the figurine of Polio Perelda.
So here, 9,000. So we are talking about another period. We are the middle of the 40s, beginning of 50s. Another style.
Lorenzo Radi, 1871, Murano. And so you take a photo of the page. Smalti, d'argento, composizioni, partite, da me inventate e non più riprodotte, scritto da Lorenzo Radi, 1871, Murano. Avvertimento, qui parla quasi in dialetto, necessario per tua regola prima di fare una partita, che sarebbe la composizione, contenuta in questo libro, leggi gli avvertimenti contenuti in quella e copia in ogni partita, ma che questa ramina sia quello che devi fare per avere il risultato favorevole. E farei bene ogni cosa. Allora, Deus Domine e la Vergine Maria, composizione, verde più prova, anima limone, Calcedonia, per Salviati. Vuol dire che faceva Radi le Calcedonie per Salviati, non Salviati, perché è scritto qua, Calcedonia per Salviati, con tutte le istruzioni per farla. E per fare la Calcedonia ci sono tutte le istruzioni di come fare e come mettere. Erano organizzati, Anche l'848.
Libro segreto.
Lavoro da me presentato libro di segreti e avventurine. Partia per avventurine. Partia, composizione per l'avventurina. Vetro, cotisso. Dopo butta il cotisso, metti dentro 50 grammi di rame. That is blown.
It's blown?
It's not empty glass. So very difficult to blast. And then look at the pieces of the younger steel Danish bracket, the shape of the big one with the yellow decoration.
Which one?
In the middle of the group. Yes.
Behind the curtains.
Yeah. I mean, this is just a little.
No, it was random. Also because if you think that at the beginning of the last century, the oven were definitely cooler than now. I mean, the temperature was way lower. I mean, I saw a video with Elia a couple of weeks ago.
Remember?
In the 1919, and they were working in the furnace. And you could see that the temperature was very, very low because the glass was not even touching. So you can understand how cold the glass was. So they were, I mean, Elia and Emmanuel were laughing because they said, we are always thinking about half a grade more, half a grade less. And they were you could see the flames into the oven.
Was it wood fire?
With fire, with wood.
Yeah, wood fire.
So they were not thinking about 1 grade more or 1 grade less. And you could see that the glass was cold, was not hot as they used to work it now.